Clix and Peterbot have been Fortnite's biggest rivals since formation with their respective trios in Chapter 6. However, Clix made the shocking decision to drop Higgs and pick up Peterbot for the second FNCS Showdown. And as a surprise to absolutely no one, this trio absolutely dominated, winning the finals very comfortably. So in today's video, we're going to break down their best game from the tournament and what allowed this trio to find a ton of success despite the fact that they had little to no experience playing with each other up to this point. Clix and Iamzo are joining Peterbot, landing at the first order base, and they land at this drop for a couple of reasons. First, they get the medallion, which causes a 25% cooldown, and they also end up getting a mythic AR, which is going to be a massive advantage in a meta where there is no ammo to be collected. Things at this particular game start off a little bit dicey as Clix ends up going down to a third party at long distance, but they're able to revive him, gather all their loot, and be able to start with a significant amount of materials, good loot, going into this early game. After securing their loot, with their drop being northeast, they immediately go south to look to third party teams that are getting into engagements, and Iamzo is going to do a great job here of calling a 3-2-1, getting a significant damage advantage onto this opponent, and then Peterbot is going to be able to easily clean up this elimination, giving them some much needed surge as well as loot. And Iamzo is going to pressure the opponent that Peterbot ended up hitting for a significant amount of damage with the AR, getting on the wall here, predicting the edit, and then picking up another elimination, granting them more loot and more storm surge. After picking up those two eliminations, Iamzo sticks around the same area, initially getting up to look for some tags here, but at some point he realizes that there's a duo nearby, and he makes an incredibly aggressive push, ramping up here with his teammate Clix, and he starts off this fight with a massive damage advantage, hitting the opponent for around 170, and this allows Clix, who is at a different angle, to be able to easily clean up that elimination, granting them again more storm surge and loot. A little bit later on, Clix is going to get jumped on by that opponent's teammate, and he does a great job here, hitting a hard pump shot and then cleaning up that elimination with the AR, once again increasing their storm surge. And a little bit later on, Peterbot ends up isolating the opponent, taking this geyser here, getting directly on the wall as his teammates pressure, and he's able to exploit in, cleaning up this trio, and now this team is very well set on loot, materials, and heals going into the endgame. At this point, Iamzo is satisfied with their amount of surge, and in 5th zone, they simply just chill in this very wide wooden box, waiting for the next zone to pull. And once it pops, they immediately aggressively push towards it, and once they get inside, they're not content to sit on edge, as they try to go as deep as possible in the middle, but a very good rule that they follow is once they end up getting shot, Iamzo switches from wood to brick and hard material to establish them, giving them a prime position to rotate into the next zone of going into 7th. Iamzo demonstrates here the importance of being prepared as an IGL. As you can see, he has already scouted this rotate and then immediately goes to his teammates, basically having the splashes pre-popped, so as soon as zone ends up popping, he uses one and goes exactly where he had already planned to go. He has very good awareness here as he sees a possible threat to holding them and immediately just builds off in wood, and once he wants to get established, switches to metal here, putting his team in a fantastic position, and they are also smart here to stop and pause and wait till it's safe, allowing Iamzo's metal to become full strength, and they have basically flawlessly rotated in all of the half and half and moving zones right before the end game. The 7th zone pool is incredibly favorable, and there is a team that is stuck in the storm here, essentially getting lobby focus, and Peterbot is going to be able to actually eventually pick up that elimination, and since the zone pulls back here, Iamzo is going to immediately invest mats, and as he does, he makes sure to claim a ton of space here, so they're able to get the refreshes and get as deep into this middle net zone once everyone has to come to them, and they are again very well set up to dominate in this endgame. The 9th zone is incredibly tricky as it is a very far pull and through a ton of congestion, but Iamzo does a good job here of getting them off on this lower layer, immediately elevating, but taking some very risky routes through old tarps, eventually getting into a old tarp and taking it over. He doesn't go immediately after this though, as he realizes he needs the zone to expand to maximize their splashes, and he peeks with a cone, and once he finds a clear route, takes a splash and goes, but unfortunately he ends up getting immediately cut off, but the IGL, showing his strengths, immediately pauses here, finds a new route on the dead side here, tanking some zone, and once you realize how uncongested and clean this entire area is, they end up saving a bunch of materials, not even having to make full boxes, and they can look for refreshes on opponents that are higher jumping down, or anybody else that comes below him, putting his team in a fantastic spot in this endgame. 10th zone is where things are going to start to unravel. They end up having a pretty far pool, and Yamzo actually gets him in a very good position on the dead side here. Peterbot is going to make a very uncharacteristic mistake, not protecting his head here, and once he slides into this corner, he actually scuffs mechanically and ends up eating a significant amount of damage. Now stuck behind his teammates who have actually controlled all of the space on front side, Peterbot goes through a bunch of congestion, not placing any walls to his left, and unfortunately he ends up getting picked off, leaving this into a duo clutch situation for Clix and Yamzo. Clix ends up eating a significant amount of damage after Yamzo makes the smart call to go back to the tarp, and before dropping layers, Yamzo once again smartly protects his head, placing multiple builds above before he drops, and once he gets directly on the front side here, he does get cut off by a team, but does a fantastic break bait as the opponent actually ends up shooting out the wall, and he hits a massive one pump, getting them a refresh right before moving into the 11th zone. Right at the start of 11th zone, Clix makes an aggressive play to drop that opponent's teammate in, and he ends up doing a significant amount of damage, eventually winning the 50-50. Yamzo and Clix are going to tarp ahead here, but both are going to run out of materials, and Clix smartly waits for his siphon to pop in when that opponent ends up going down to storm, and Yamzo and him both make the decision to pop their chug chugs and try to maximize their place in. Yamzo, while shaking his chug chug, also recognizes he has an opportunity for siphon after he ends up hitting the opponent with a shotgun and then getting some AR tags, securing another elimination to siphon, allowing him to cover more distance without popping the chug jug. Eventually, Clix is going to go down to the storm here, but Yamzo is going to do a fantastic job of clutching as he ends up popping the chug jug, then hitting a very nice one pump onto Booga here, allowing him to continue in this endgame, and fortunately enough for him, the zone is going to pull back, so as he's popping the jug jug, he's able to build and get established before the last moving zone. Immediately after establishing though, a trio nearly runs directly on him, but he's able to quickly elevate, and then he hits a fantastic hard pump shot onto another opponent, granting him some more siphon and materials, and at this point, he's actually now claimed the high ground. He's able to go all the way up, heal up, however, he ends up getting challenged by Edgy initially, but Edgy ends up eating a significant amount of damage from another team, and Yamzo is able to get that elimination as well, so he can sit on the high ground and look for a different angle. It's now a 1v2 situation, and Yamzo is on the high ground here, running out of materials, and as he ends up dropping down, he hits a massive one pump, but unfortunately, he wasn't able with the AR aim to hit any shots on the other opponent, and he ends up going down in second. However, the amount of eliminations as well as the second place put this team pretty much ahead for good for the rest of the tournament. Well guys, thank you so much for watching today's VOD review. I hope that you guys did enjoy. If you did, please drop a like on this video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on post notifications. And I hope I'll be seeing you in the next one. Peace.